Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Tuesday, June 8th, and this is your end of day recap. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. This video is for education purposes only. If this screen is a little bit blurry, it's because YouTube has not finished rendering their high def version of the video. Just give it a little bit more time. I also copy and paste this spreadsheet over to my Twitter feed screen print so you can kind of follow along that way if you can't see the numbers perfectly. So let's theme of the day. I just put in here the power of the meme. Really that is what was the big driver of, well, I don't want to say the driver of today's moves, but those were the areas that were really strong, really that small cap, micro cap moves with, a lot of momentum, a lot of call action. Those things are really exploding, have been exploding to the upside. So we'll go over 4 or 5 of those names. Clearly, there's a lot more than that. I can give you a couple ways to kind of track those moves, via like a basket or an ETF, a little bit easier. I think that's one of the things like, I always use ETFs, not always for trading purposes, sometimes for trading purposes because I do trade them, but they're really great trackers. If you want to follow relative strength or if you want to really know what's moving, of course you can kind of set some scanners up too, but it's nice to have like a product that already tracks a particular theme. So there's a couple ways. So let me get into the performance, and then we'll kind of I'll get into that. But yeah, you could see from the price action today, we're not really seeing what I would refer to as strong breadth right now, right? You got the S&P basically flat again, the Q's flat again, the Dow stocks flat, and then all the outperformance is coming from the micro cap ETF and the small cap ETF, up over 1% for the day. So, it's I always go back to this in some of these videos, and I try to say this, but this market just continues to be a very interesting place, fascinating place, whatever adjective that you want to use, but it's very difficult to say that you can kind of come in and kind of predict what has transpired here the last couple days with just major outperformance going on in the micro caps. And it's one of those things where you do have to kind of be in front of the screens, reading the tape a little bit, watching that option activity kind of pour in to the tape in some of these names is really where you're going to kind of catch some of the action. Now, of course, like I said, you could run some scanners too, and you could look at names with that'll come up on your scan for high volume or for big performance for the day, but you might be a little bit late to the show for some of that stuff. But that really hasn't mattered all that much. Another thing that just kind of stood out here a little bit is the VIX was up today too. So when we look at market breadth, right? Sometimes I'll show this screen in here, and this is WEIB, just to go over the raw numbers, right? You can see that we have an indicator on the bottom of your screen too that kind of tells me what goes on per exchange, right? NYSE, NASDAQ, as well as ARCA, which is a lot of ETFs. We have that volume weighted so that when we really see a lot of volume moving around, we associate a little bit stronger breadth versus very low volume moves. But you can see for the Dow stock, 17 finished down for the day, 13 finished up. So you can see that's not good breadth. The S&P better, 286 advancers, 217 decliners, and the Nasdaq, where you do have a lot more smaller cap names. That again is really showing where the strength is of this market. 1765 advancing, 1115 declining right now, and you could see a lot of new 4-week new lows, a lot of 52-week new highs, that we're seeing here. So just to kind of give you a visual at the breadth, let's go ahead and we'll talk about some of those. We'll talk about the indices here for just a moment, but S&P, continues to kind of stay around this 4,200 level. I don't know, what else can you do but kind of laugh at how long this has been going sideways for. But like I said, we're able to kind of find where the movers are in this market and kind of gravitate along those lines. Qs, we've talked about this level up here, right? This 338 level. So we did we did take that out on the highs of the day. So I mentioned this. I was on Bloomberg TV on Friday, and I talked about how we can get outside of value. If we get outside of value and above this 335 range, then the next place logically that we would get to was this virgin point of control up at up at around 339. So we did take that out. So that's been taken out. There was also a 1 hour one too. I don't know if that's been taken out. No, we got that a little bit higher. So maybe we're saving that. But I would be a little bit wary if we take these things out. I would watch the price action around there, right? So that's kind of been my I've had this little cute market view that we could kind of go up for the first couple weeks of the month, and then of course we have the Fed meeting coming up, and we do have what will be considered by the financial media as well as probably everywhere else that we've got a pretty big inflation report coming out on Thursday, the CPI report. Then we have the PPI report. Again, they really like to emphasize the importance in this stuff, so that's why I'm bringing it to your attention. But I would be mindful of that, and watch your positioning. Right? I thought today was a good example too. At Tribeca Trade Group, we do pre-market sessions. I also send out videos in the middle of the day, or when we don't have, we have Q&A and chart review every Monday, Wednesday, and a look ahead, thoughts before the weekend on Friday. But when we don't have that, I usually send out a video. And what I mentioned this morning in the pre-market session, with the Qs being up about 0.5%, my view, right? This was 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock. Again, I'm on the 1 hour bar. And here's, of course, where we went to. And then, the open comes and things kind of move down. But I said I would be a net seller, right, on the open. I said, I'm not looking for, generally when we've been up like this, because the market has just been going in more of a sideways fashion for the overall market. When I see, up 50, 60 basis points, I want to be selling into that, right? Not adding new positions, right? So again, kind of think of things as, I view my role as number one, a risk manager, number two, a trader, different hats, right? Maybe they don't have to be, ranked, so to say, but I do view myself as number one being, I say number one because it is important, is being a risk manager, a trader, and then also an investment manager too. So, you have to kind of think about all those things and think about what you're going to do before the market opens. So my plan, I bought a little bit of Dick's Sporting Goods because of this ASO report. That worked for me. I was able to get a target at the end of the day. But you could see, I held some Microsoft calls. I kind of put on a little bit of a lotto trade, and I was selling. I was selling on the open, 934. Within a few minutes of that, I got out of that trade for nice little one-day profits, 320. Paid 209 for that just at the end of the day yesterday. Here's another example, SE. This thing jumped 15 points on the open. So, when I see something like this, I take it. And I didn't take the whole trade off, but something goes up 15 bucks. Normally I take 3 or 4 targets on my swing trades, but if I see something up 15 bucks, I'm going to take a healthy target, right? It's a gimme. I also got out of this snow trade that I put on towards the end of last week. So again, selling, and then I kind of wait a little bit for the market to kind of come in, right? Because it seems like the market is just doing that for now, right? And then, of course, we had a little bit of this. I'm not really sure what spooked the markets, but I think it's just the way that the market is going right now. It doesn't necessarily have to be on any news. It just could be a couple sell programs that are washing through and maybe rotating to some other things. So, keep this in mind. I think the next, with this CPI report, who knows? We could dip on it. We could rally on it. We're going to have a Fed meeting next week. What this tells me, when you have some events coming up, is to start, thinking about, either locking in more profits or just leave some dry powder so that you can kind of attack a little bit. Some of the things that you may be looking to buy that you're really comfortable with. You could look for those market dips to kind of and take advantage of that. Because it seems like right now, unless something changes, and we'll of course watch support levels, but it seems like we're just getting this wishy-washy market where every time we seem to kind of come in a little bit. For now, it's been a little bit of a buying opportunity, right, in the short term. All right, so that was my game plan, and then I'll start to go over. Let's talk about. So that's the S&P and the Qs, which again, the strength was sold, the weakness was bought. You got to kind of just roll with the punches with this for now with these two indices. Small caps obviously are doing something different. If you kind of look at where these things are, they're trending, right? And I think that there was another VPOC taken out up here in IWM, but now I don't see it. All right, let me give it just 2 more seconds. Let me zoom out a bit, see if I see one. No, I don't see one. So I think that was the last virgin point of control, and we're going to be pretty close to price discovery here, right? 234 was the high, right? So and if we look at IWC, which I've been bringing into the conversation here the last few days, because again, if you look at the constituents and if you look at the movers in IWC, you're going to see it's a fairly decent proxy for not all, but some of the meme stocks, right? I mean, look at the performance of some of these things today. Kodak, it's up 27%. And I think you just kind of have to chuckle at this stuff and figure out, as this market has changed to going after the super small cap stocks, micro cap stocks, how to kind of play these things, right? That's why this market, as I said a few minutes earlier, that it's very interesting. You kind of have to continue to adapt to what this market is giving you, is giving you. If you got, really long a bunch of financials and material stocks and some of the things that were working a month or two, you can't turn a blind eye to other parts of the market. You have to continue to monitor, right? And that's kind of what my bread and butter is doing, is to just really trying to capture the rotations. Even though my opinion is on some of these names is they're a little bit harder for me to position in. I know a lot of people send these screenshots of that they made $1 million and on days like this. I give them a lot of credit because I don't really understand how you can position in something that position huge into something that is so volatile, right? And to have like more than a couple positions on in names that one day could be up 20%, the next day they could be down 20%. So you have to be comfortable with that volatility and positioning your account size appropriately to make sure that you can handle the move. So what else did we see besides these? I'll go into some individual names. Before we go into the individual names, also what I thought was pretty interesting was the metals and mining were actually the best group. Oh, one other area that you could watch, again, because there's just not a lot of ETFs. I mentioned the microcap ETF. There's another one too that I think I put in here called, this is the SoFi, which by the way, that stock did very well today. But this is SFYF. That's a tough symbol. A tough one to remember. SFYF. So you can see this thing break out 30 to 38 bucks, right? So if you look at what's in this thing, I had it right up on my screen. Right. Of course, AMC is in here. When we look at the biggest weights, AMC is 13%, GameStop is 6%. I guess then it doesn't get that exotic. You got some things like CCIV in there. But again, what you could do in these things is I like to use the mover screen in Bloomberg and just bring up what's moving. But I guess it was really GameStop and SPCE was up 8% today too. So BlackBerry's also in there as well. So I guess I'm not sure. I'll have to check because I don't think it says on the description how often they rebalance this thing. They only have 50 names in here. It's either equally weighted. Considering that they're no longer equally weighted, they probably rebalance this thing. I would assume once, right? Because you could see it's not equally weighted anymore, meaning every name has the same. You got one name at 13%, and the rest of, a lot of this basket is only at 1%. So probably they either do it quarterly or maybe they do it more frequently. Maybe they do it once a month. All right, but anyway, just something to kind of go through. Let's talk about some individual names, right? So again, I'm just going to point out a couple of these names. I didn't trade this name today. This name, you have to have conviction in your trades. This is one I just really haven't had conviction in. But if you got it, and managed and saw all the call activity, yesterday, just a lot of call activity. And I mentioned, I think when I tweeted out yesterday's video, I think I put some of these tickers in here for you in yesterday's video. Yeah, Clover was the number one. Then I said, see, this is supposed to be CCIV. Somebody told me I did a spelling error. So, you have to kind of pick and choose. Now, Wendy's wasn't one, but look, I mean, this is incredible, right? Wendy's up 25%. So that's just the kind of market. So rather than, rationalize it, I would say for now, just realize that this is the market that we're in right now, right? Things, when everybody kind of gets together and talks about a name, they can really move. And look at the volume. Look at the volume on Wendy's today, right? And then some new names today that saw, right? Call buying right out of the gate today was this Context Logic, a name that I don't think I've ever heard of before today. But man, they were just continuous call buying today, right? How many? Let's see if I can figure out how many contracts this thing traded today. Wish. So this is one of the nice things that I'm chuckling because there's a reason for me to chuckle. Well, there's 195,000 contracts, right, that traded today. That is, yeah, 100 that's open interest. Let me see if I have, that's six. Oh, I think it's number 7 on here. All right, so 24, here it is, 24 times the usual average volume. So again, let's see, what is this? Oh, that's right, it's an application software. All right, doingbusinesswish.com. And then another one too in this space that you may not have heard before too was Root. And I traded this one. It was kind of just like, because I'm not familiar with either one of these companies coming into today. I put on a little bit of this Root, which is up 15%. So, it's it's tough because you don't know, which ones of these are going to go crazy. Like, so how much was Wish up today? Wish was up 50% today. So I guess I chose wrong. So I don't know. Maybe there's a better methodology of picking. Maybe the lower price stock right now, $7 to $11. And look at where it stopped, right at its 50-day moving average. So the way that I would, kind of prepare for some of these things is ahead of time. Think about how much money you're going to risk in these things, because half of the stuff I'm not trading very large size. Like I said, a few minutes earlier, that you really have to have conviction in this stuff, and I don't have conviction in things that I've just heard the symbol for the first time, right? Or things that are in deep, deep downtrends. That's kind of not my philosophy because I'm more of a trend trader. I stick to strength and I stick to trends. But hey, you could participate in some of the stuff and day trade it. Right? At the end of the day, if you make some money, you could just take it off. Something that goes up 50%. So that's my philosophy on these things. I participate in them. I don't do much. I don't do much more. Else. Some of the times, what I do is I'll take off 75% of the position and leave the last piece on because this market has just gotten pretty crazy. So what else? A couple other trades. Oh, yeah, SoFi was another one, right? Up 12%. But again, there's a laundry list of these things. Sirius was a name. Interesting that we saw some big calls that went up in this thing. I think this was today's Tuesday. I think it was Friday that we saw a big call buyer go up in this. So again, half of these things, they don't even have any news on them, right? So, that's the other thing too. I always get that question, especially from newer traders, when they see a stock move. They're like, what's the news on it? Half the stuff, there is no news on it, right? There's just a lot of aggressive buying going on in it. So again, like these are a little bit of lessons to learn. And as I've always mentioned in these videos, I've been doing this for a long time. And I never get to the point where, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen in the market, or, I've perfected everything. This is something that I've never really seen before in my history of trading, starting back. Basically, I started as a junior broker out of college in 1999. So I've never seen anything like this. I saw the dot-com stuff where stuff would just go up every day. Like a Dell, for instance, like Dell Computer was one of the names that I remember. Every day you would come in and it would be up $3 to $5, right? Just continuously, just grinding higher, grinding higher. This is something that I've never seen before. Stocks that have absolutely no news, penny stocks, they go up 40%, no news, but they're being plugged, uniformly or like collectively, I guess I should say, on message boards. So hey, that's the market that we have, and you gotta just be able to take what you're given and try to run with it, right? And realize that you know there will be other rotations that are going on right now. So a couple other names that I thought were interesting. I mentioned the metal space just for a second, but I took a new trade in STLD. Another one of the traders at Tribeca Trade Group put this trade on first. I looked at the chart. STLD is one of my favorite names to steel names. Nucor, I think, still did very well. Another name that I really like too, that's kind of a little bit under the radar because it's just not talked about that much, is Reliance Steel and Aluminum. One of the nicer trends that you'll see in this group, and this thing gives you a nice level to trade against, 172. I was talking about this name earlier in the trading room, and I forget if the I forgot if there's options or if the options were just ridiculously wide. There are options on this, and they've actually tightened up a little bit. They're still kind of wide, but so there you have it. Another new trade that I put on was MGM. This is a trade that I tried about a week ago, and it was just digesting a little bit, and I got impatient with it, so I put it back on today, and I think this thing could possibly break out. Casinos, I think, are a pretty good theme right now. It sounds like people are really going and going to them, and it sounds like the business is pretty good. What else? I mentioned DKS, which found some support here. Levi's is another trade that I took today too. I've been watching this name for a while, right? And we're starting to see some names kind of do this. Right after they've kind of gapped up on earnings and ran a little bit, they're kind of coming in and digesting. Another name that was brought to my attention by a trader and at Tribeca Trade Group as well is Bruker. Right, this is a life sciences company. Look at this digestion. Right, so this is a pretty nice setup. And again, it's just day one of the breakout. Right, so again, a lot of interesting things going on. Again, on the lesser, not nearly as sexy as the meme stocks, but I thought Honeywell was kind of interesting today too. Honeywell is one of those names. It's a slower moving stock. Again, you kind of have to think about different things in your portfolio. It's tough to hold, of those meme stocks or, micro cap stocks. It's tough to own 15 of those, right? Because of the volatility. It's nice to have something like this, in my opinion, that you could kind of just trade versus support. You could have it in your portfolio, and you can kind of, set some alerts and go from there. AHT, I know that name saw, speaking of high momentum names, that took out, another high. This, believe it or not, is a REIT. And I actually do like the chart pattern. I like the base going on here. And AHT, this thing could maybe go up to 850. I don't see another virgin point of control, right? Virgin point of controls are like they're pivot areas where a lot of buyers and sellers have previously met up. I don't see one. So this thing, I think, has the possibility to continue to run a bit. But speaking of that group, look at how hot, starting to see more people talk about the REITs, but this has been amazing performance out of the IYRs, and IYR and VNQ both have been seeing inflows, ETF inflows over the last couple weeks. Really strong inflows, by the way. All right. FBHS is another name. Roblox, it kind of seems like there's been a little bit of a rotation out of some of those names that really kind of gave us an early heads up that growth was moving very well, that growth was starting to wake up a little bit a couple weeks ago. It'll be interesting to see if this thing, what it does around the 20-day moving average. What I would like to see is after this breakout is a little bit of digestion, and then this thing starts to head back up. So it's definitely on my watch list, right? That's a name I don't have on right now, but I'm watching. Ulta is another name too. Let's see where this closed. Take a look. Remember, this thing had earnings about a week and a half ago. Try to break out, didn't quite break out. Digested a little bit of that earnings move, filled the gap, found support at the top of value for the month, and bounced. That's one I'm watching for tomorrow. The only thing I don't like about that one is that it did not take out the highs completely. It kind of got it hit that resistance. All right, guys. So that's it. We'll leave it here for today's video. It's already over 25 minutes, so I think that's long enough. Guys, have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.